So today I'm going to continue and close out our October series on health and wellness. So if you've been following this series, you know that we've been talking about many of the ideas from our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, how they created this unity movement that is worldwide, that was started in the turn of the century in the late 1800s, really about the idea that we can heal ourselves. And so we're looking and doing a deep dive this month into that idea about how is it that we can practice these principles? How can we understand this concept that we can heal ourselves? In many ways, it is radical. It is a radical idea because we have been taught that we have to rely on others. We have to rely on external environments. We have to accept our faith, our fate. That if we have an illness or a challenge, that's just how it is. Haven't you ever heard, maybe someone says, it's God's will. Anybody ever heard that? It's God's will for you to be sick. There must be some reason that you've been brought to this pain and suffering. And the beauty of new thought and the beauty of unity is that we are offering the world something that really is perennial wisdom. It's something that has been around. We call it new thought, but it's really old thought. It's this idea that you have the power within you to change your life, that you can use your mind to be able to change your thoughts and then change the reality of your existence, and maybe even change the reality of the world by the work that you do internally. As you raise your energetic vibration, as you clear out thoughts of lack and limitation, as you open yourself up to the truth of who you are, you become a beacon of light. And then you are able to interact in the world with your family and your friends and your coworkers and the person in Kroger and whatever, and you can see and feel there's a difference. Sometimes we don't even realize when we start practicing the principles and we start engaging in the world in a new way, we don't even see how we are changing other people around us. It becomes infectious in this way when we have this positive attitude. Have any of you all been at a job, those of you who have been in Unity for a while, and people just say, I love your attitude. Or there's a work situation that you've been able to hold space for and change. All of these things matter. You know, we oftentimes think that these things are bizarre. And when we start to learn them, it does seem like, how is that even possible that this can happen? But it is true. And so part of what we do is begin practicing and begin being patient. Because these things do take time. You're not gonna, some of us might have some kind of amazing healing, in one kind of practice, one prayer, one meditation. But for most of us, it takes time because, the kind of cliche, we're peeling away the layers of the onion. I mean, it's cliche, but it's true. You're moving sometimes a little bit by bit, till you finally understand what is at the core of that hurt, what is at the core of that need to heal. And sometimes it's things that don't even make sense. We're focusing over here on our partner. We're focusing over here on our boss. We're focusing over here on our kids. And the reality is it's something within us that needs a healing, which is why we're reacting and being in the story of all of these things. And so we've been doing that this month, looking at how do we use these principles to change our lives. We started the first week by talking about spirituality and mental health. We went on to talk about in the second week the power of the spoken word. We talked a lot about Myrtle Fillmore's story, how she healed herself and how it became something so important in her life that it became, again, this thing that was infectious that her husband wanted to know what was up. And her husband did these healings, and then he became interested, and their community members became interested. And then all of a sudden, you have 100 churches around the world, and in many languages. Daily Word is in I don't know how many languages, in Spanish and African languages, in French, and what have you. All of by this understanding by one person that said, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to heal myself. But it was a process. It took discipline and work. And so that's also we have to understand. We are not going to come to a new meaning in life. We are not going to come to a peace and a balance in life without actually taking that time. And sometimes it's about being creative and changing up what you're doing. You know, one thing might not be moving or you might be resonating with something. Try something else. It's about taking that time and that space to be able to allow for that holy process to take root in you. You have to be patient. The other thing I want to remind us in this, thinking about what we talked about in week 2 about Myrtle Fillmore's journey, she used the power of affirmations. She used the power of the spoken word. But here's also what she said in her book, How to Let God Help You, which was one of my favorite phrases from the book. She says, you must approach the throne boldly. That is that spirituality, we're taught, right? Most of us, it's a very kind of solemn, it's more like I'm asking, I'm begging. And she's saying, no, we recognize and we demand. We recognize the truth of who we are and we demand a better way of living. We have to have that understanding that we are approaching ourselves and our lives knowing who we are as Christed beings, knowing who we are as children of the Most High, knowing who we are as the anointed. And so you give yourself that time and space and that respect to say, I will heal my life. Using the spoken word to be able to do that and doing all the practices, meditation, prayer, talk therapy, all the Reiki, I don't care what it is that you do or you're into is your jam, but all of these things end up being all of the tools. It's like a spiritual toolbox that you have within you that you're using to be able to have healing in your life. But she says, approach the throne boldly. You have to be all in, people. If you want healing, you can't half-step this journey. You got to step in and step in deep. Does anybody hear me on that this morning? You can't just say, I want healing and step back. You can't just say, I want healing and then go home and do nothing. You can't say, I want healing and then put yourself in the same situations that you've been in that have caused you pain. You have to be willing to approach the throne and step in all in and say, even if you don't fully believe it, I am a child of God and I do not inherit sickness. Say that together. I am a child of God and I do not inherit sickness. We say it with boldness and the truth, not supplicating, not getting, maybe sometimes we have to get on our knees, but we do this as we call that power. You got to feel it, you got to know it, and you bring it forth to be able to change the ethers and change your body. We went on week 3 about honoring the body and talking about how the body is important. Oftentimes we've premised the mind and the logic and the reason, but our bodies will tell us things that our mind cannot. Our body will tell us things that we can't rationally and logically know. Our body will tell us things that sometimes may not make sense to us. So with that, I invite you, when we have some kind of conflict in our lives, when we have some kind of bodily situation, when we have some kind of pain, what do? We resist it. Do we not? We fight with it. But I invite you today to think about when you have things going on, lean into it. It sounds, again, counterintuitive, but we're not trying to fight with what is happening in our lives. We're trying to step in and co-create it. I have this pain. What does this mean? I have this pain. What could this be an example of? I have this pain. How is my life out of balance? I have this pain. How is this pain calling me to my greatest and highest good? I have this pain. What do I need to change in my life? I have this pain that I haven't dealt with my whole life, and this pain is wanting me to cry. This pain is wanting me to feel the hurt. This pain is wanting me to come to spirit. We don't know. It is a mystery. It is a mystery sometimes, but lean into that mystery. Lean into the pain sometimes, and then the pain dissolves. Last week, we talked about healing the race consciousness. We were talking about healing the body, and then we were talking about healing the race consciousness, meaning the thoughts in our consciousness that come from a collective consciousness, the things around us that we just assume as true. So things in the world that we've been taught, everyone has their own paradigms, their own thought models, their own things that have probably been passed down to them from their culture or from their friends or usually their parents, their family, right? So what I invited you all to do is start thinking about what are those mental models that you have that are holding you in bondage? What are the race thoughts that are holding you in bondage? The ways in which you think life just is. We'll always have poor people. There'll always be have-nots and haves, you know. Men will never understand. How is it that we are reifying these things by holding on to those ideas? I ask you all, this is your inner job. This is an inner job. This is for you all to understand. What are the models that you have in your mind that are holding you back from your truth, from your healing, from your understanding? What are the bondage ways in which you are in your mind about lack and limitation or boundaries that will never be crossed? If we don't free ourselves from those, there's no way that we can envision a world of beauty and love and truth if we can't begin that inner journey first. I want us to understand, we're starting to talk about what could this mean for unity to be in this world of social action, social justice. If the word social justice is a trigger for you, pick something else. We've politicized these words to the point that we can't even talk about it anymore. We can't even understand what we're talking. We're talking about opening up our hearts, having compassion, stepping into sacred service, being able to see what's happening in the world. We have this phrase in 12-step communities, right? Accept the things you cannot change. I'm not going to go, right? Accept the things you cannot change. And I saw a little meme the other day someone sent me. Change the things that we cannot accept. That changes it. How is each and every one of us going to embody that sacred truth to say, what can we not stand for anymore? What can we not stand for? Abuse of children, poverty, whatever it is for you that kind of gets you in that realm. But there are things in this world that, yes, we are going to pray around. We're going to pray about, all of these things. We're going to meditate on them, and all of that is important. But there's also things that we can personally and collectively do to make a difference in the world. It will look different for everyone. But that is important too, to be principle in action in the world. That was Jesus' ministry. I want to just close this session and close this series by having us think about, what does that mean for unity? What does that mean for new thought to spiritually integrate? We've been talking all this month, really it's about spiritual integration. How do we take all these things that we thought are bad or ugly or painful or shameful or guilt or all of these things, and how do we lean into them and actually integrate them, transmute them, resurrect them in some way, restore them in some way, however you want to think about it. We're changing them so that they're not things that weigh us down and become our lack. There are things that become our catapults for change. But then how do we understand? So we've moved through all these series, and now I just want to close by asking us to think about what that means for a unity movement. For so long, we've always said in unity is the best kept secret. Has anybody heard that statement? Unity is the best kept secret. I hear that all the time. Why don't we have, people out in the parking lot spewing? Why are not necessarily the pews packed to the gills? People say, well, people don't understand us. People can't find this truth. It's too hard. And again, I want to invite everyone to think about what are those mental models doing to our movement when we say that people cannot change, or that people don't want to change, or that people don't want to do the work, or that I heard somebody say, a congregant that said, we need to stop having people think that we're weird. We just want to be like everybody else, To which I say, guess what, beautiful people? We are not like everybody else. We are and we're not. We have to stop trying to be in a mold or fix ourselves into a mold so that we can look good. We can be these, alternative Christians or these alternative spiritual practitioners. No, we have to approach the throne boldly about who we are and be okay with that. And when we get over that, and I speak to myself as well on that, then and only then will things change. If you go on the internet and look at almost probably every practice that we have in this service, there are many, 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 many spiritual communities that will say we are satanic, that will say that we are witches, things like meditation, things like yoga, things like saying that we have the power within us. We started a TikTok channel, and this guy started trolling and sort of calling me the, what did he call me? Not the Antichrist. What did he call me? The false prophet. And I was like, oh, I'm a prophet? All right, I'll take it. A false one? Okay. But these kind of things, because people fear these ideas. And so instead of engaging them, they attack them. So I'm not telling y'all to go out and attack people, but what I am trying to say is we need to stand on our truth. If I'm a witch, guess what? Yep, I'm a witch and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm going to approach the throne boldly, honey. I'm going to bring my broom. I'm going to bring my hat. It sounds silly but this is what we need to do. As a community, we need to stop fighting against trying to be like everybody else, because we're not. And the minute that we offer somebody something new that has never been seen before, that's when we will start to see the shift. Because guess what? Christianity has never been tried. We call things out there Christianity, but most of them are not based on Christ's principle. So I invite everyone today to be part of that, to be part of that energy and that vision of instituting, of creating, of co-creating, of building the boat for Christianity, a Christianity based on the teachings of Christ, that is about love, and that is about compassion, and that is about understanding, and that is about collaboration, and that is about patience, and that is about oneness. Not all of this craziness that happens out there, and I won't even say craziness because that's not the word I want to use. All of this dissension that is out there, people shouting at each other. Did y'all know in Nashville there was a protest and a counter-protest last week about this issue of young people who are transgendered? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I'm not going to get into the context of the issue, but what I want to suggest is it is not okay to be screaming. I'm not, as a spiritual person, going to go and scream in your face about who you are or the choices that you make. How is that spiritual, people? It is not. So I want to close by just asking all of us, we have to call the question on these things, and we have to call them first with us. We have to first call the question on who we are, who we want to be, and who is this community called Unity of Nashville? What are we bringing into the world? What is the vision that we have? Who are we, and who are we ready to be? Because I'm ready to be bold. Are you all ready to approach the throne boldly? Bippity boppity boop, and so it is. Amen.